Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Did you mute yourself? Go ahead.
You did. Hey, there's Connor.
I think I was muted. Hi, Melissa. Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
Connor. Hi, Brian. There is Connor.
His
Hello,
phone.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'm just going to get my headset.
Jackie, I can't mute you from my end. You may have to do it on your end. But I don't hear you, so you're probably muted. So don't worry about it.
Well, it is 6:30 and we do have a quorum. So I would like to call to order the regular Zoom meeting of the Woodstock Planning Board for May 5th, 2022. We do have a quorum. Melissa, do you have any updates to the agenda?
There was just one we had received in an email from Mr. Nagel regarding 22 Rock City. That's it, just the one.
Okay. All right, so we have the minutes from March 31st and April 7th. If everybody's okay with them, I'd like to accept them as they are.
So moved.
All
I
in
agree.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good.
Aye.
Okay, under communications and announcements, we have an email from Ken Panza, which is in response to the question we had at
Hold on. Somebody's unmuted.
I think I got him.
okay.
And Jackie Mangano is unmuted.
Yeah, but
I'm not
she's
talking.
Okay.
Okay.
got it.
So we have an email from Ken Panza, which is in response to a question from Dennis at our workshop meeting, which is how the planning board got established. And it's a very interesting article about the beginning of zoning and planning in Woodstock. So that was a great read. We also have a letter of authorization for T-Mobile Northeast LLC from Crown Castle, and that was received May 5th. Other than that, we have a lot of emails regarding 22 Rock City Road, and I will address them when we get to that. So, under scheduled business, we have a public hearing, we have a follow-up, and we have a sketch plan review. So for the first is the public hearing, and this is for T-Mobile Northeast LLC, special use permit 22-0322G and SUP number 22-0361G. And this is a virtual public hearing for a site plan review and special use permit application, which is an eligible facilities request for modifications to existing monopine telecommunication tower facility located at the R8 zoning district at 122 California Quarry Road in Woodstock. And the rep is Robert Baldicio and of Snyder and Snyder LLP. And at this point, I'm going to turn this case over to our Vice Chair, Stuart Lipkin. So Stuart, if you would, please.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. So this is a public hearing, and in a moment, I'm going to open it up to public comment and have a motion to open the public hearing. Why don't we do that now? I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing on this application by T-Mobile Northeast LLC.
So moved.
Any second?
So moved.
Okay, John seconding it. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right, so the motion carries. The public hearing is now open. I'm going to ask the representative for the applicant, Robert Gaudioso, to make a brief statement at this point as to the relief that the applicant is seeking from this planning board. So Mr. Gaudioso, if you can give us that brief statement.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Robert Gaudioso with the law firm of Snyder and Snyder. As you know, we did have a pretty lengthy discussion last month, so I'll try and keep it at a high level. This is a proposed modification to an existing facility on town-owned property. The application consists of the replacement of 6 antennas for our existing. 2 were previously approved but not installed, and the replacement of 2 equipment cabinets. We also propose to provide the necessary branching around our antennas and the proposed branching socks on the antennas themselves to comply with the original approval. Since the last meeting, we did submit the details of those socks, which are also called out on the plans. We submitted the underlying lease agreement, which shows that we have authorization to perform this work. And today we did also provide the letters of authorization from the tower manager on behalf of the town, which is the property owner. We did submit tons of other information, including a statement of needs, statement of compliance, coverage maps, structural certifications, short environmental assessment form, and all of the necessary application forms and plans as well. So we'd be happy to answer any questions your board or the public may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gaudioso. So at this point, I'm going to open up the hearing to public comment, and I'll ask anyone who wishes to make a comment or ask a question. First of all, questions should be directed to the board, and if we deem it necessary, we'll ask Mr. Gaudioso to respond. But a comment should be directed to the board and generally not across to other speakers. Okay, and so with that, whoever wishes to make a comment, if you could raise your hand or hit the the hand button, wherever that is on the system, and we can start taking comment.
I heard one person, call in user 1, someone who's from the phone. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is Felicia from Woodstock 104, WIOFLP. And from what I understand, the letter of authorization...
Sir, hold on. Can you tell us your full name, please?
Ms. Felicia
Well, okay. Melissa,
Okay.
did you get the name?
Yeah.
Okay, so the speaker now continue with your comment.
Okay, so my question is, from what I understand, the authorization to go up on the tower came from the management company. Did the management company get authorization from the town board or the supervisor? And also, if the management company did not get authorization from the actual owner of the town, does that undermine in the future, excuse me, does that undermine in the future the ability of the town to assert their right to control the tower as far as work and equipment going up or not going up? That's the end of the question. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll take that as a question directed to the planning board. I don't know if Mr. Gaudioso wishes to weigh in, but I'll give my own observations as the vice chair of the board, who's been sitting with this matter and other matters involving the cell tower for a while now. And basically, we have documentation that's been provided to us in this case, as well as other cases, indicating that when the tower was constructed, the town board designated JNS, which was the tower constructor and operator, as its agent for purposes of operating and managing the tower on behalf of the town. And thereafter, JNS was taken over by Crown Castle, was acquired by Crown Castle, which is the current agent, and Crown Castle ascended to the position of JNS as agent of the town. And we've given notice to the town board, which is a governing body of the town, of the pendency of this application. And it's been indicated to us that no objection has been forthcoming from the town to our considering this application. So we have the written authority from Crown Castle as agent for this applicant for us to consider this application. So our view of it is that that's sufficient to, in these circumstances, to as an indication that the owner, that is the town of Woodstock, is consenting to our consideration of this this application, and that's sufficient for our purposes here. You've also asked whether our considering this application will in any way limit the town's right that they might otherwise have, as owner of the property. And while that's a legal question, I'm not prepared to answer that as a matter of law. I do know that they are the landlord under the lease for the premises, so that they're the landlord, and the applicant, T-Mobile Northeast, is a tenant. And so whatever rights exist between the town and T-Mobile in terms of what the lease terms say and what rights and obligations exist under that is a matter really between those two parties.
Okay, thank you. So legally, non-consent, or rather, a non-response by the town then indicates legally consent.
Non-response to what?
To your notifying them of the work that is to be done on the tower, and that,
Well, we did receive responses from the supervisor and from Bennett Radcliffe, who are two of the members of the town board. And it was indicated to us by the supervisor in writing that the town board is fully aware of the application. And since there's no objection been raised under all these circumstances, I deem that sufficient indication that the town has no objection to our considering this application. However, they're not dictating how we decide it. All we need is that they're authorizing us to consider it as the owner of the property. Okay. Are there any other comments or questions that people want to put forth? If so, raise your hand and you'll be recognized. And I only have half of the app. I have a split screen here and I can't see both screens at once as to everybody. Is anyone else raising their hand, Melissa?
If people use the reaction button to raise a hand, it will automatically put that person's image on the main screen that you have.
Does everybody know where the reaction button is? Because I don't.
Down at the
Bottom of the screen.
depends on what kind of computer you have. If it's a computer, it's down at the bottom of the screen.
Well, at the bottom it says mute, stop video, participants, chat, share screen, record. Oh, reactions, there it is. You knew I'd get there. Okay, are there any other hands up?
Don't see any.
I don't see any. Okay, going once. Any other comments on this application? Going twice? Okay, so there being no further comment on this application, I'm going to entertain a motion at this time, if anyone wants to make it, to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, all in favor of closing the public hearing?
All right.
Aye.
All right, okay, any opposed? Hearing no opposition, the hearing is now closed. So at this point, it's 6:42. We still have a few more minutes before the next item. We can proceed to consider the resolution that was circulated by Melissa Gray prior to opening the meeting today. And
Can I just catch you quick? We have to approve the application first.
yeah. Okay, so we'll have two motions. The first motion is to approve the application as submitted. I'll entertain a motion to approve the application of T-Mobile Northeast LLC under SPR 22-0322G and SUP number 22-0361G in this matter.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving this application?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing no up. Oh, John Lavelle is on record as voting no.
Got it.
All right. So the yeas have it and the motion carries and the application is approved. So now I would entertain a motion to approve the formal written resolution that was circulated by Melissa Gray in this matter to the planning board members and to our council.
So moved.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? John Laval is a no. So the yeas have it, the motion carries, the resolution is approved as indicated. Is there any further business we need to conduct on this case, T-Mobile Northeast? Mr. Gaudioso, is there any further aspect of this that you need the planning board to weigh in on?
No, I appreciate your consideration and thank you very much for your time and courtesies.
All right, you're
Mr.
welcome.
Gaudioso, the rest is pretty much paperwork. You and I can talk, but your meetings with the planning board are officially over.
Thank you. And if you could just forward me the resolution when it's available, I'd appreciate it. And just want to thank you. You probably have one of the best secretaries in the Hudson Valley. She's absolutely fantastic to work with.
We think so.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm not just saying that. I'm being very, very sincere. So thank you.
You're correct.
All right.
Thank you very much and have a good evening.
All right, you too, you're welcome. So with that, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Chairman Cross.
Okay, thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome.
Okay, for 6:45, we have a follow-up, which is 22 Rock City Road, LLC, special use permit 21-0355C. And this is a follow-up to a virtual public hearing with outdoor sound plan for a site plan review application for site plan modification to develop outside area for commercial and communal use in the HC zoning district located at 22 Rock City Road in Woodstock. And the reps are Robert and Alexia Howard. So before I have the applicants explain to the planning board what their new site plan revision is, I just want to address the many emails we got regarding this. And this is not the beer garden, so to speak. This is sound. And the sound is not just restricted to the beer garden. You have the Bearsville Complex, the Catskill Mountain Pizza, the Pearl Moon, the Station Bar, etc. A lot of the emails ask the planning board what they can do about it. And please understand that the planning board has no enforcement capabilities. All enforcement of town codes belongs to the zoning enforcement officer. So any issues that people have with that kind of a code issue goes through the ZEO. What we have before us is a site plan review, and site plans for the planning board regards the parking, lighting, signs, entrance, exits, seating, and a stage design as such. And what's before us is that, exactly that. It's a site plan of what the site looks like. If there's a stage there, what goes on the stage is not in our purview. It could be silent movies, it could be anything, but that's not our purview. And the other thing that we got emails about is whether all of this is correct as far as zoning. And I need to say that when the planning board gets a referral from the building department, that means that they have cleared it in its zoning. So we wouldn't get a referral if it wasn't correct. So what I'm going to do is to have Neil and Leslie give us their new proposed layout for site plan. And then afterwards, I'm going to ask the planning board members to have a discussion about it. And there's a couple of issues I need to bring up after that. So at this point, Neil, if you would like to explain or show to the planning board what your new proposed site plan is.
Well, as I tend to do in these meetings, I'm going to give the microphone to my much more level-headed, better half here. She's got some thoughts. Great. Mine are all over the place.
Great, thanks ever so much. And I also see that the folks from Brown Innovations are here as well, and they're going to do a short demo for us here in a few minutes. So I just wanted to start by saying that when we last met, I think it was around January the 6th, so a few months ago now, it was very clear to Neil and I that it would be pretty unfair to grant the Colony Beer Garden an exception to the existing noise ordinance without setting an unhelpful precedent. But by the same token, we also probably shouldn't be held to a higher standard than the the noise ordinance that currently exists. And it was also pretty clear that while many people enjoyed the outdoor music who came to the garden over the last couple of summers, there are understandably a number of people who deserve and legally are allowed not to be disturbed by the sound that exceeds those noise ordinances. And this, of course, put the planning board in our recent discussions into a very difficult position in terms of agreeing this plan for the outside noise situation. So we were then left in that January meeting with what to do with this apparent conundrum. We went off in search of a technical solution that would meet everyone's needs, much like the aerosolized hydrogen peroxide system that we installed in the Colony building in October of 2020, that seems to have really helped to minimize the COVID transmission within the venue itself. Now, we can't claim it to be perfect, but it seems to have made a difference. So we were trying to find the equivalent technical solution to solve this noise problem. Initially, we did a long search. We looked at what the Glastonbury Festival in the UK was doing with bands like Metallica, but frankly, that wasn't good enough for Woodstock. So we threw that idea out the window, even though I saw a demo of it in the city last December. We also saw a very creepy solution called voice-to-skull technology, which apparently was actually banned by the military because it ends up driving people mad because it actually puts voices in your head. So that was kind of out the window too. And in the end, what we discovered, or what we've landed on, is something called directional speaker technology. That, as far as I understand it, and I'm sure that Kevin and Jim, who are with us today, will be able to explain it far better than I can, but it seems to me it's kind of like the equivalent of lasers, but for sound instead of light. So while traditional speaker technology blasts sound in all directions, including straight up Ohio Mountain, directional sound can be much more precisely contained within a specific area without annoying the neighbors. Now, Brown Innovations, they're out of Boston. They're the pinnacle of this industry. They've been pioneers in this technology since the early 1990s. They're the only supplier of this technology that we found a tool that was able to apply this in low frequency sounds that are all important to music. They've installed setups in places where there are very strict noise ordinances, including downtown Miami, for example. So Brown Innovations has designed an outdoor sound plan for the Colony Garden that's intended to achieve the goals of providing a good music appreciating experience in the garden while meeting the noise ordinance and avoiding any sound bleed into neighboring spaces. So with that, I'd like to welcome and invite Kevin Brown, who's the president of Brown Innovations, and Jim Hume, who's the sales director, who are going to give a brief demo, and if there are any technical questions afterwards, they'd be happy to stick around for a couple of minutes before we continue the discussion. Bring it on.
Okay, how you guys doing? I'm here in Boston. This is my yard. It's my house over there, and I've set up 2 of our 8 what are called high-powered 47s, which are basically the speakers. A version of the speakers that we're doing, that we'd like to do for you guys. So what I've done is I've set up 2 speakers, and I'll show them to you on stands. There's one there, and then there's one over there. And they are facing each other, creating basically a zone of sound. Right now, we're outside of that zone of sound. When we go in between the speakers, we'll hear it. Now, I've also set up a little bit of a precise microphone system so that we're not working with cell phone speakers or microphones that will automatically turn their volume up and down. So you're getting a precise measurement of sound. Unfortunately, I'm sorry if you can't see my face. Unfortunately, my son is practicing drums in the house right now. So if you hear some drums from out here, it's more likely they're his drums than the drums coming from the speakers. But anyway, we'll work with it. So I'm gonna just walk basically in this direction until I go into the zone of the speakers, in between the 2 speakers basically that are facing each other. And so I'm gonna be quiet for a moment, but you can see me walk. Okay, so now I'm in the zone, and this sound zone is as wide as the speakers are about, so I can walk in between them. If I walk beyond, I'm going to put my arm out of the zone, just outside. It's only 2 feet outside the zone. I'm holding it out. I'm going to carry the microphone back in. Okay. And then outside the zone. So on the side, now you hear my son. You can hear my son drumming. So I'm gonna walk back in the zone, and you can see it again. And I'm moving from the right side of one of the speakers. I'm sorry, yeah, the right side of that one speaker to the left side of that speaker, back behind me, and out. And then I'm gonna walk. Well, I'm outside, but I'm gonna walk just. I'm about 7-8 feet from the edge of the 2 speakers. You can hear the birds chirping. And you can still hear it a little bit, but that's the difference from just being right inside the edge. So, so that's basically it. And I can talk a bit more about how the speakers work and stuff like that, if you have any questions. And if you have anything you'd like me to show you while I'm out here, in terms of walking, around the zone, so you can see. Actually, you know what? One thing that I didn't do, which I'm going to do, is I'm going to show you the evenness between the 2 speakers. So if I walk near one of the speakers, and then I walk to the other side, and that was on the edge. This is in the middle. And one thing you'll notice is that it's really not getting too much louder in the middle, on the sides. It's pretty even throughout that whole zone inside the space of the where the sound is focused.
What were you holding in your left hand?
Yes, this is a new device to me. This is made by Shure. I'm not familiar if you're familiar with microphones. They're a microphone company, and this device allows me to hook my computer's USB up to a precision microphone, as I was explaining earlier, so that it's not like we're doing any kind of magic. This is a what I would call an omnidirectional. It's actually an instrument mic. When I mean instrument, meaning for measurement in a lab, not for like music. But what I'll show you is if I hold the microphone here and I rotate the microphone and so it's pointed at me, or if I rotate the microphone so it's pointing up, or if I rotate it so that it's pointing away from me, and I keep that microphone basically in the same space in the space, it doesn't change volume. It doesn't matter which way I point it. That's what you call an omnidirectional microphone, which is kind of not that common. Basically, even the microphones that are inside your cell phones are directional. So I wanted to make this as a fair demonstration as possible, so you could purely see the. I'm really sorry about that phone call. Stop it. All right. So, but sure.
Can I ask another question? Can you hear me?
Sure.
All right? So how do those directional speakers, do they take account of monitors that are on the stage facing away from the audience and towards the band?
They don't, but we have thought of that as well. They have also, as well as the speakers around the listening area, they've also ordered special monitors that we will put on the stage that will also be very directional, and so that those won't not be, hopefully, as an issue depending on where they're pointed, but they should be fine. They will be as directional as these.
Kevin, there was a question here in the chat. Julia's asking what the volume or dB level is that you're playing the music at right now.
I could actually measure that, but I would estimate it at about 80 dB. I could I could turn it up. We will start to hear it more as we turn it up, but you're still going to get the percentage drop off. So you could have 100 dB in there and still have only like, 60 dB out here, 70 dB of noise, and have it not be disturbed.
We had one other question in the Dropbox too.
Sure.
Curiosity, how many speakers would be needed to cover the beer garden?
Well, I think we've estimated 16 plus 8, so it's 24 speakers is what we're looking at. It may be that we might need to add a few, depending. I think that is the minimum that we would need. But yeah, I'm going to say 24 speakers.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your answer.
Sure.
Hey, it's Brian. A couple questions. That is so cool, but I don't understand.
Okay.
So we're in the colony's outdoor garden, and let's say it's 30 yards by 30 yards, and you said 16 speakers approximately.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's got to be a lot of money. But so that's the zone. And then if you're outside the zone, you literally hear nothing. But if you're in the zone, you hear something.
Well, I would say that that is basically what's going to happen, but you're also going to have some other things to think about, which is even having a person in the zone will reflect a little bit of sound, but it's minute. For the most part, what you're seeing here should be what you get in the real world. But yes, there will be sounds that do reflect off, but it will be the amount of acoustic energy reflecting off a person is very minimal. It's mostly getting absorbed. So
that was my second
really
question.
see,
So it will reflect, so to speak. This is fascinating.
Also, I'd like to say, from my understanding, the plan that are we on? I'm not.
Yeah, you're on.
Oh, okay. Hi. The grid, so to speak, that we've designed. There's going to be the stage and a section directly in front of the stage where hopefully it'll be just kind of loud enough to think you're listening to rock and roll and you can dance.
Right.
Outside of that will be kind of a giant horseshoe of like everyone can talk. They can hear it a little bit, but they can talk fine and the kids are running around. Then outside of that, it's maybe a trickle at the fence line, we're hoping, like far below the noise ordinance at the property line. But the key is for us to give a reasonable facsimile of a decent live music experience, but with invisible curtains before the property line.
No, it's kind of like a perimeter for a pet.
Yeah,
an invisible fence, so to speak. So my last question. So and let's say you have 250 people within that zone, and it's cloudy or misty. Does it impact the frequencies, so to speak, or?
Well, both of those are two issues. So the mistiness will add more damping to the sound, but in terms of what happens outside the zone, it's not going to change anything about the focus. But what it might do is it might require the volume to be turned up slightly more, just so to compensate for the mist that is absorbing the sound. The issue with the 250 people, seriously, what I think is going to happen is if there's conversation between the 250 people, that's going to be louder than anything that the speakers are going to bleed out to the sides. So those 250 people will be doing two things. They'll be reflecting the sound, but they'll also be absorbing the sound. So it's not going to be appreciable in terms of anything that is caused to reflect.
Okay, I have two more questions, and I promise, and this will be my last. And this is for Neil and Lex. I mean, I'm guessing those speakers aren't going to be able to sit outside at night. That's quite an investment there.
No, they are. I'm afraid that's part of the plan we have to figure out over the next period is like the arbor that we're going to have to sort of put in the middle of the field to house these things. It's going to be an installation. We're not going to reel them in and put them on sticks every day. You know.
Yeah. So on the security, because obviously we did have a theft last year, so we have learned our lesson. Well, without giving it away to anybody else that's
our password is
exactly. Also looking at new technology, there are ways of getting overnight security using artificial intelligence with cameras. So the cameras can basically detect if there's any motion. They will have an algorithm to check if there's people with balaclavas trying to nick our stuff in the backyard. And then they will put it through to an actual person who's monitoring it, who can then call the police. So we're working on this kind of, and we would take them in over the winter. So they'd be out during the season, but then we would take them in over the winter, and we have thought deeply about, tracking, obviously, and all that kind of stuff.
So you have Detective Amoroso on speed dial.
Exactly.
So this is my last question. So then, and it only if you feel like disclosing this, but most folks, they try their best to do something to follow the rules and regulations, but quite frankly, you want to invest as little as possible because it's hard enough to run this business as is. If you feel comfortable, what's the investment?
It's big, and this is how much we love the place. Yeah.
I don't want to say.
No, I'd rather not. But we're here to
if I start, never mind.
Yeah.
It's not in our purview for the planning board to ask about monetary issues.
Well, that's why I asked if they felt like disclosing it. I didn't ask for the number, Peter.
How many Lamborghinis could we buy?
But we want to make we really want to make sure. I want to make it absolutely clear that we really want to make sure that we read all those letters. And actually the last, I have a lot of other stuff that once we wrap up this section with Kevin and Jim, I want to thank the people who actually were concerned and wrote in, because we listened and we went out on a quest and we really looked and searched the planet for a solution to this. And hopefully we found a fairly exciting solution. It may not be perfect. We're not trying to do Coachella at the back of the colony. But hopefully it's going to be enough to really contain the sound, but have a nice experience. And it is going to be a bit learning by doing. Once we get the materials, we'll be able to start off small and just see how it goes without, frankly, pissing anybody off.
And I guess that's my point of asking that question. So thank you. I'm mute.
I did notice, Kevin, there was another question here in chat about if you could maybe turn it up to about 100 dB just to get a sense of what that might sound like.
Sure.
There's another question about horns and other instruments that do not go through the PA system. Obviously, those those aren't going to go through the PA system. So
special permission.
Yeah, this isn't like a silver bullet solution to like all the noise issues at all. And this is like more like, can we feasibly have a little bit of a musical beer garden that can allow music to be wafting around, like piped in no matter what, or late night kind of, danceable stuff that's completely invisible to the surroundings. It doesn't stop the guy with the bass amp from playing the bass amp too loud. That's not going to go through. So the whole curating who plays question is still, front burner. And this is just, I don't know, this is just more of like a kind of another guarantee. This is like one of many layers we're throwing at the problem so we can be open enough to be worthwhile to be open. We can't do this 3 times a year and just sit on our mortgage the rest of it. You know what I mean? We have to try to do this as much as possible, like Disneyland. The people will come if there's something to do there. But and once in a while, like just now we were talking about, there's a big reggae thing that might happen or want to happen in August, and we'll probably ask for a permit for that because there's no way we're containing that. You know what I mean? But in general, I think we can do.
Hours.
Oh yeah, it'll be like middle of the afternoon on a weekend. But still, it would be uncageable probably from our prediction. But that said, though, we still want to have a lot of just bluegrass and singer-songwriter stuff and music that is heard not like just tinny stuff through a speaker inside a bush, and then once in a while we get a band. We need to have that sweet spot of, or try to find that sweet spot of people seemingly being on stage. And, that's why singer-songwriters, I prefer them because they play through the PA. You can turn them down.
I have a question
Hi
here.
there. Can I hop in there? Sorry. Me or Judy?
Go ahead, Connor.
Sorry about that. Could I ask a couple questions of the engineer?
Sure.
Just on high. So just going back to that comment they were asking about pumping it up to 100 decibels, and that just kind of dovetails with a question I had, which is, like you were describing the polar pattern of your microphone. What is there a cone of coverage, I guess, that you could give to us in terms of what the speakers output and at roughly 100 decibels, or in that margin, what does that change? Does it get wider when you amplify? What are we talking at that level?
So these are good questions. A polar plot, when we talk about a polar plot, is measured as an angle. And with this speaker, it's hard to put it in a polar plot category, because as you move away from the speaker, that angle gets smaller and smaller. Define the
Losing the audio.
Yeah, you've been cutting out a bit. Is that just me, or is that
is
everybody? He's frozen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For now.
And he doesn't realize it, probably.
No. We lost him.
Oh, I thought it was
Probably his
crazy.
internet connection in his backyard.
Yeah.
I think he's back now. All right, you're back, Kevin.
Sorry about that. I'm back. Okay. I'm not sure how much you heard of that.
Not much.
You may need to get closer to your house. You're freezing a lot. You're frozen right now, if you can hear.
Oh, that's too bad.
Maybe if you could get closer to your house.
Yeah, I'll try to do that. Or actually, maybe what I'll do is, well, I don't know if we have time to jump on my cell phone to do questions.
Well, you're better now.
Oh, better now. I don't know what could be causing a difference. But all right. So what I was saying before is about a polar pattern. As you move away from the speaker, the angle gets smaller, because it's not defined like a normal speaker, which is normally directional. This isn't omnidirectional. It's a plane wave. So when the sound leaves the speaker, it might get to be twice as wide at like 50, 60 feet away from it. But that's what I would say. And it's, I would say that as you go lower in frequency, it's a little bit wider. And as you get higher in frequency, it's a little bit tighter. So it'd be hard to give you a defined depending on which product we're referring to, but the products.
I guess if I could kind of clarify a little bit. Earlier you had demonstrated walking into the field of coverage, and you had said, it was about at least the way you've
I can help define that. So
yeah.
All right. So here's what I would say is, at the speaker, what we'll do is I'm going to turn this, and we're going to look directly at a speaker. So I think you can see it there on the on the three-legged stand, right? So I am about 4 or 5 feet from the end of the speaker, and this is what it sounds like when you're near the when you're like away from the speaker, only about 3 or 4 feet. So I'm now about 2 feet. Oh, the sound is starting over, but it's been playing this entire time. I haven't turned it down, so let's let it start up a little bit. Okay, so I'm right here, only about a foot and a half from the edge. Okay, so hold them here just so we can experiment with being only like 3 feet away from the speaker, what happens at the speaker. So I'm here 2 feet, 4 feet, bring it in 2 feet. Now I'm going to bring it into the zone. I'll do it slowly. That's about 6 inches out. That's right at the edge. It's at the edge.
So
It's middle. I'm still only 3 feet from the edge. Okay, and now I'm going to move away. Okay, we'll do the same thing sort of out, I don't know. Let's just do this at 10 feet. And I'm 3 feet, 4 feet away. Now I'm about 2 feet. I'm right about 1 foot, so you can.
So, can you hear me still?
Now we're in the zone.
Sir?
Okay.
I can hear you.
Hi. So,
Except for the glitching, but I can hear you.
So based on what you just showed us, would you say, with a 20 decibel increase, the margins of the coverage that you just displayed would not be changed dramatically, say, to, warrant worrying about leaking off of the property or over and out?
Right.
You froze up, but it seemed like you shook your
yes,
head.
Yes, I'm sorry about that, but yes, that is the case. It will be fine.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Judy.
Okay.
Can I let, can we just do one or two more? Because I'm conscious of time here.
Well, I'm a member of the board, so I want to ask my question.
Carry on. No, absolutely.
Of course.
You have 2 speakers out there right now?
Yes.
Or 1? And they're facing
There are
each other?
2 speakers.
Are they facing each other?
They are facing each other.
So if you went behind one of them, would you be in the sound zone of the other one?
Behind
Or do they cancel each other?
Sound. That is true. They don't cancel, actually. There is sound behind it.
Sir, Bruce.
Some
little feedback loop happening there.
I think it's behind this one. I'll show you what it sounds like.
Not
But
hearing
yes,
anything.
there is sound behind it. And sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Let me see. Okay. Be able to hear me, but you have also see. So let's see. So there's the speaker. Okay. So yes, the sound does continue behind it, but it's directly behind it. It doesn't open up behind it. It just goes straight behind. So this is in the zone. And this is behind. And you can see it's not quite as clear or as loud, but I don't know if you can see me in the picture still. Okay, so I'm about 3-4 feet behind.
Or is it a dog?
Yes, you see the dog. Yeah.
Well, I guess my question is this.
Yeah.
You would set them up in sort of like a circle?
Well, we had actually talked about that, and what we determined was there were areas where the sound might be acceptable behind the speaker. There were more critical areas where we wanted the sound to the sides to definitely have no sound. And so we looked at a plan that possibly had a layout of speakers such that the sound wouldn't go into the sensitive areas, but might spill a little bit in areas that could be not a problem.
Can I chime in there a little bit? So originally the plan was to have them facing on either long side of the garden, but because of that exact issue, we're now putting them on the short end, so near the stage and near the building, so they'll go directly into the building at one end and into the berm, like the hill, on the other end. So there's not going to be no bleed towards the intersection of Rock City Road and Glasgow Turnpike, and there's going to be nothing pointing in the direction of Ohio Mountain.
Peter, I'd like to ask another question.
Go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah. So for the engineer, is there a vertical component to the sound? In other words, you're talking about kind of how it's going horizontally, but how high would the sound go up?
That's a good question. There is definitely a more of a vertical component to this, which will help distribute the sound over the whole area.
It's freezing.
Although, let's see. So if we're okay, tell me when you can hear it. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
It's freezing. Let me try just shifting this table. We'll take one.
I think maybe a diagram of where you think the sound will go once you've got it set to be useful, even though that's not, we can't hear it, but we can see what it would look like.
No, I can certainly do that. There is a broader vertical component to the sound dispersion, but are you able to hear me right now?
Yeah, I'd like you to continue answering that question.
Okay, so
please.
All right, I'll try to. So that's directly in front. Now, if I go down, you can see it's probably not as loud there. You can't see with this.
How about above the speakers?
Not tall enough.
Lower the speakers.
But then we can point them sort of angle. The angle is going to be really critical. Because it's
part of the plan is to mount them slightly higher than where Kevin has them on stands now, and to kind of angle them, slightly downward to compensate for that vertical distribution.
Pretty impressive.
So I'm out now. I'm going back in. All right. So. Okay. Still hear it there, but it gets louder as you get here.
We could play with it.
And
Hi, George, I can't talk right now.
So that's 2 feet.
Hi.
The end of the song. I hope that was not glitching and you were able to hear the difference between up above and down.
Well, it's kind of
Sort of, but you were glitching.
From my perspective, it's difficult to perceive. Did you say that you could have 24 of these speakers on the property? I thought you had said 24 earlier, right?
That sounds right. That's I think not including the monitors that will be on the stage. Yeah.
Right. So apart from the monitors, which are also a concern, but for the 24 speakers, are you able to just tell us in words how high above the level, how high physically above the height of the speaker the sound will project?
We're pointing them downward. We're pointing them almost straight down.
Well, I understand that, but that means it'll be silent above the speaker, or will there be no sound that bleeding up top? Yeah. I want the engineer to answer the question.
All right, so will be some sound that bleeds upward, but it will dissipate and it shouldn't be, even though that sound is moving up.
Frozen again.
Everything's canceling to the sides. So everything is canceling to the sides of the speaker. So even above the speaker, everything above is canceled. Everything at the speakers is canceled, and everything below the speakers is canceled. So you're sort of creating between these everywhere that these speakers are. Actually, somebody described it as a laser, and that's actually a really good way to think about, collocated sound. Basically, we're setting everything up so that the sound is going to be in a plane moving, towards each other, And everything outside that plane to the side of the plane is not, you're not just distributing sound to the side. So you're getting a high concentration with almost like invisible walls that go upward. So you're basically, I mean, I can show you here. Right to the right of the speaker, there's very little sound. Are you guys able to hear me okay? Is it glitching still?
Yeah.
It's glitching?
Yeah.
All right, let me move this table. I'm going to, give me 2 minutes and we'll fix this, okay?
Kevin, it was suggested if you might turn off the video, your service might be better, but I don't know. That was someone suggested in the chat.
Problem is then we can't see where he is, so part of the demonstration gets lost.
Has anyone considered doing a demonstration at the actual property on Rock City Road?
I think
Good idea.
I think that'll be the next step. While he's setting that up, any other board members have specific questions regarding this?
Peter, I have a question for the applicants. On the plans, there were blue lines on the drawing, but I couldn't figure out what they are. Can you tell me what the blue lines are?
Sure. So there's two different types of speakers. The ones that are around the edge in green, which I think there are 16 of those are kind of car stereo level speakers. So they're not doing the super subwoofer level frequencies. And they're the ones that are facing actually in from the stage and out from the back of the building. The blue ones are the 8 that are going to be suspended from 20 feet above the area. Those are the ones that can do the higher quality sound.
Thank you.
The other members of the board have questions regarding this concept? John?
I have one other question, Peter. Forgive me, because it's not a random thought. It was stated earlier by the applicant that a reggae band you would not be able to contain the reggae sound on your property. And like, just explain to me, did I hear that right? And if so, why is that?
Well, I'm just saying that as from a musician's point of view, if a person goes out in our field right now and plays drums with no electronics touching him or microphones or speakers, they are breaking the noise ordinance. So that person playing drums on our stage is breaking the noise ordinance. A bass player, I mean, this does not fix the issue of a band being too loud in the thing. It gives us a chance to play music through the speakers like disco style that might be loud enough to make it fun to be there as a business. But we still have to close the loophole of figuring out what bands are like, how acoustic is acoustic, what is unplugged, bass and drums, this will not fix. I mean, I wish it would, but it doesn't,
Right. Yeah. So I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm sorry, real quick. We can turn them down really low and then through the PA, they can be kind of loud and this works, but the actual bass player can still turn his thing up and this won't fix it,
Yeah. So if I can answer the question, this would be a local black band that probably isn't used to using the monitors that we're talking about, the directional monitors. If they want to use their own regular amps, then that negates the entire thing. That's going back to traditional sound. And for that kind of an event, even if it's from 5 till 9 or 5 till 8 or whatever, that would be a separate permit for a regular concert. So
it sounds like you would be willing to. It sounds like you would be willing to restrict the sound, the people who are generating sound, to only those speakers that you provide.
That's basically what we're.
Well, that's what we're hoping for. I mean, we also like to get drummers playing electronic drums. That would also solve the problem too. But every drummer I've talked to says that's never going to happen. So if we got, let's say, Bob Dylan wanted to play out there, it was a huge event. We would have to get a permit. He would play with it. He'd bring his own concert venue with him. But for what we're trying to do is like just local, quiet, singer-songwriter, acoustic, just allowed to do music out there with some electricity involved, but not necessarily loud rock bands,
But on condition that you're using this setup. Basically.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all contingent on what we're talking about, this new speaker technology.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Am I able to let thank Kevin and Jim massively for the demo. I know that we were a little glitchy, but thank you so much for doing this, because I think it sort of added so much, or a total another dimension, because me just trying to describe what you just showed us would never have worked, but just, at least you got hopefully a little bit of a glimpse and a flavor of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for inviting us to show it off. And yeah, it really is something you kind of need to hear yourself in order to understand. So yeah, thanks for setting this up.
Really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Again. And so please say thank you. Huge thank you to Kevin as well.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Bye,
Jim.
Thank you.
All right, real good.
I've got now we get down to the nitty gritty of stuff. Would it be okay for me to carry on or not?
Yeah, we have some other cases here to deal with, but I just want to ask any members of the board if they have any other questions. And the next point will be, I think the board needs to discuss this and come up with a plan to test this, some way to see if it can stay within the noise level.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of things. In order to get going, there's a couple of things that obviously we're into May. We really need to do a few things like pouring the concrete out the back of the building. So there were a few things on the site plan that just physically.
We were hoping essentially to put the sound discussion in a separate lane and get
totally
permission to physically get going on the beer garden, so we can actually have a restaurant at least, because there's a lot of things we need to do. We were actually open this time last year, and it was, but my point is we got to pour some cement, and if we're ever going to get open this season, we have to start last month. And if we wait till this question is resolved, we're just not going to open this season, which means it's not good news, you know what I mean, given COVID and given everything. So we're hoping we can somehow get at least permission penciled in soon enough that we can start pouring some cement like tomorrow and maybe sell a beer by June. But I'm willing to play myself on a ukulele 7 days a week and have no other music. But I need to open my business and sell a burger or a beer this summer. And I can't wait for this discussion to sort of resolve itself to the purity of all. We already bought this stuff, so you're going to get a demonstration of it very soon, and then maybe we'll sell it back. But
all right, well, as you all know, the town does have a noise ordinance code, and we do have a disturbing peace code. So the planning board cannot tell you how much sound you can put out or not put out. That is a question of the sound ordinance. And that is not anything to do with the planning board. That's the zoning enforcement officer. So at this point, we do have to get on to some other business. But as much as I understand Neil wanting to pour concrete, I've got about 200 emails wanting to know how we're going to resolve the noise issues in town. And you were doing a very great job of coming up with a new technology.
My hamburgers are very quiet.
But
hey, Peter, it's Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
Why can't they move forward, and then these are mutually exclusive things?
Yeah, this is not the same discussion.
Well, with their plans, and then we deal with the noise issue.
I think the answer to the question is we need clarification, and we need clarification either from the zoning enforcement officer or from the zoning board of appeals, because as you know, we have other venues in town that are coming before us, and one of the solutions that they are getting is they have to apply for a special use permit to have a concert. In other words, you get a permit from the town.
Peter, we're not talking about having music right now. We're talking about being able to legally have a beer garden open with people in it drinking and eating beer and hamburger. They could be listening to tapes.
That's not a problem. That's not a problem.
But that's the permission that we need, like yesterday, though, in order to have a summer season at all.
Well, do they need permission for that, or do they already have the permission?
They have permission for that.
Wait a minute. they're operating a restaurant in the building. It's been submitted to us for consideration of changing the site plan to establish a restaurant and music out there in the back. So seems to me that the prudent thing, if they would consider it, would be to sever out the soundstage piece of their application into a separate application, and then just stay before us on the adjustment of the site plan for the seating and tables and so on and parking regarding people being in the back there, the number of people and food service, whatever you have, but put the sound issues into a separate application. So this way that would accommodate what the gentleman is saying, that he has concern about moving ahead.
Planning board members, what I'm hearing, Lex and Neil, come see me Tuesday morning. I won't be here Monday. Let's fill out a new application and we're going to split this application up and we're going to do that concrete. We're going to write exactly what you need right now, right here. We're going to get you back in front of the planning board for that. We're going to keep this going. This is just going to be an addition, but we're going to separate out the contracts. Planning board, say A or no.
Well, you're proposing to amend the application by, splitting it into two.
Yep.
Could I ask, Tracy has her hand up. She's on the legal side with us.
Who's Tracy?
Our lawyer, Tracy Kellogg, would like a word.
Peter, is that all right with you?
Yes, I agree with Stuart. I mean, the site plan is a site plan that we talked about. We can approve the tables, the chairs, all of that. And as I said before, what they do on the stage, we don't control, but the sound will be monitored.
So why can't we approve the site plan tonight?
Because it has the soundstage piece in it.
But it could be empty though. It could be a flower pot.
It could be empty. That's my point. Until sound emits over the decibel level across the property line, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's not our issue, if I may. That's not our issue. Then they're in violation of some ordinance, but they're not in violation yet because they haven't done anything. So they can still move forward.
Guys, hang on. The planning board needs to further discuss. We've seen the presentation, Lex and Neil. We're in limbo. I think we should see our next case and then you guys can continue this discussion.
I respectfully disagree with that. I think that the application that's before us can be approved, but they've already indicated that they're not going to move forward with the sound. And they're not in violation of anything yet. And if they are, then there's going to be repercussions with the town.
So can we approve it with an understanding that the plan is to be split and that we're approving the construction elements, the non-sound elements of this plan, pending the resubmission of a separate sound plan? Is that something that's palatable to the board?
That sounds good. How does everybody else on the board feel? Judy, yes?
Yeah.
Well, I have some questions on the non-sound aspects that I'd like to raise. And if they've been raised earlier, I apologize. One is, been indicated there could be 365 people invited in as a capacity. Is that right? And if so, what's the impact on the parking? And where's everybody going to park?
We've got an agreement that we won't have inside.
We're never going to do the same thing at the same time, inside or out.
We're not going to have inside events going on at the same time as outside events. We've never.
So the footprint of the beer garden is the same as the inside. Oh, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
400 is our inside limit, and it wouldn't be any bigger outside. We're never going to do the same thing at the same time.
But you say you have an agreement with whom?
The town, I thought.
I don't know. Who's the agreement with and where is it? I've never seen that.
When they were authorized to have the inside space, they had to have parking as part of that use. That was a few years ago.
Yeah, that's settled business.
We're not increasing capacity. We're not looking at 800 people something. We're not increasing capacity. It's the exact same parking footprint it's always been, which frankly has never been an issue, even on the busiest things we've ever done.
May I sort of interject?
Yes.
Tell us your name, please.
Tracy Kellogg.
Thank you.
So the the applicants are not asking to exceed or to present anything that will exceed the noise ordinance and the noise law. And they're not looking to increase the capacity of the site. They're looking to utilize another portion of the site while they still meet the existing capacity that has been given to them. The number of parking spaces have been allocated. It's been approved on their original site plan. And so they're just looking to amend the site plan by adding additional outside seating. Even if they were to have the stage, and the stage was to be approved in your application right now, there could be conditions about not exceeding the decibel levels. And if they exceeded the decibel levels, then they could be brought back before your board to reconsider the site plan. They're allowed under the zoning law in the Hamlet Commercial District to have certain activities, and these are all allowed activities.
These being what?
The restaurant, the club, the venue, the everything within the sound ordinance, meeting and not exceeding the sound dBA levels is purely a site plan. It is not a special use permit.
So Ms. Kellogg, I have this questions running around in my mind, and one is, there's been a lot of talk about the noise ordinance of the town of Woodstock, and my question is, why is that the only standard that people are talking about? Because as a planning board, when we review site plans and so on, we're required to follow other standards in the code that are recited in the code. And it's not
correct.
Right. And some of them have to do with, the general welfare and health of the public and the comfort and convenience of people in the neighborhood, not only the immediate neighborhood, but in the town as well. And there's been a lot of input already from the town that the sound spilling off of this property travels in all kinds of directions. And I understand they were trying to address that with the technological solution. And okay, but that has nothing to do, in my view, with what decisions we have to make in terms of because I don't see how the noise ordinance really answers that. Even if it's something that's within the noise ordinance, if it's spilling out or destroying someone else's quietude, that's an issue for me.
But Stuart, isn't that an assumption?
Well, we've probably had countless emails explaining it, so that's been happening, including some from members of this board. So, I'm just trying to deal with what's in front of me in a fair way.
But if they're complying with if they comply with the code,
I mean, with
then
the noise
the issue is whether
for too much decibel.
Are you saying we have to be quieter than the noise ordinance now?
I don't, in my view, I don't know that the noise ordinance is the only standard that we have.
What else is there though? I mean, how do we work with that?
Yeah, Stuart, if I may, it sounds, if I may, it sounds like we just keep moving the bar on these folks. And quite frankly, I don't even go to the colony, but it's frustrating that we can't make a decision on this. This is kind of stated ordinance, stated law, and they're not asking to do anything different right now. They're just asking to move forward to do some renovations that have already been approved, and they're not going to do anything with the sound until they get that straightened out.
Well, they have to sever the application then and make it to application, because right now it's all
they don't have to.
That's my view. But why is it in here?
You just said, Stuart, that before that they actually don't have to, and now you're
No, I didn't. I suggested that they sever the application and split it into two, and so that if we have to.
And then Connor said, no, we could do a little line item amendment on that and move forward, because if we keep wasting everybody's time that comes to the board that's actually trying to do things on this, and what are they going to do? They're going to have to wait for us to convene again. And then they have to get in queue on this.
You could provide them a conditional, which is what I was trying, you could provide them with a conditional approval so that they can go ahead, do their construction and be prepared to enter the summer season when the season opens. At the same time, they can continue their presentation on how they are going to have the music meet the noise ordinance.
Yeah, it's up, if I may, and it's up to the applicant to decide how they want to, if they want to take the risk, in this case on the noise portion, and move forward. And they're willing to take that risk, and it's not settled yet. But what they just want to do now is just want to pour concrete and move forward.
I understand that, Brian. And that's why I suggested that they sever the sound piece from their application, and so that that's not in front of us.
So if I can jump in
appreciate
for
that,
one
Stuart.
second, if I could just jump in for one
Four
second.
people
So
waiting.
let's just break it up.
Okay, let's. Peter, you want
All
to
right,
call?
yeah, Judy's got her hand up and we've got to move along. So let's Judy, ask your question and then we're going to get this to a conclusion here, please.
It seems to me that the noise ordinance rules on the question of sound. They can't, if they're willing to have acoustic sound only, if they're not able to make the electronic sound work, there is no basis on which we can say, other than the other parts of the application not being appropriate. It seems like the rest of the application is appropriate.
I agree.
I agree.
So if we put a contingency on it that says, if you find that what you can't do with what you can do with sound doesn't work, I mean, there's an issue here that the acoustics may not actually be adequately covered by the town law, but the town law is what it is. We don't really have a way of saying if they meet the town law requirements at the boundaries of the property, that isn't good enough, because that's what the law says. That's good enough.
That's correct. And we don't control the law or enforce it. The law is there and we can't enforce it or control it. We can approve the site plan as it stands. If the noise law exists. We're not creating it or enforcing it or even applying it to this case. If they have a stage, they can have a stage, whether there's nobody on it or not. If they put a tank up there and blow it off, well, I guess that's not going to work. But we can approve the site plan as it is.
That is my position as well.
John, I see his hand up.
Yeah, I would agree. Approve it as far as the construction for the outside dining, the restaurant facilities, and hold the rest in abeyance. I don't see how you can deal with anything else under the existing zoning. We are really have our hands tied when it comes to the sound portion of this.
But they are doing their damnedest to make it work, so let's give them a chance to prove it.
Yeah,
I absolutely understand it, and I appreciate what the presentation, and being a very well-established old nerd, I love the presentation. So if this works with this kind of noise canceling, which has been tried, I remember Eddie Vilcher trying it years ago when he was. The difficulty is definitely going to be one with permitting acoustic, non-acoustical sound, amplified sound. There's the issue. Cut it off the permit, issue the rest of the permit today so they can get some concrete in the ground.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the site plan pending the separation of any sound-related construction or consideration as submitted.
So moved.
Excuse- Yeah, did not, Tracy Kellogg, where are you? She's still on?
I'm here.
Tracy, what is your idea as far as a conditional permit?
Right, so you could make the permit conditional, you grant the approval of the site plan as presented, and you provide that there's a condition on the site plan that they shall not violate the noise ordinance, and if they have X
But do we
number of
really need
violations
to
that are
add? I'm sorry, but do we really need to add a provision that they have to abide by a law that we have no purview to enforce? Of course, they have to abide by the noise ordinance. I mean, that to me, that's the constant.
Listen,
Yeah,
I represent the applicants, and I would love that there not be a condition. But what I'm saying is that in an effort, if you are not willing to grant them an approval based on the site plan and the application that they've presented to you tonight, that you then make it conditional on, normally it's 3, sometimes it could be 5. So that the first time, at the first instance where they violate the noise ordinance by a measured, the ZEO comes out and measures at the property boundary. If they are violation, they get a warning so that they have the opportunity to correct and see how they technically alter the equipment that they're looking to purchase. And then at 3 times you remove their ability to have anything that's amplified outside if it's not on a special permit basis where they're requesting a permit for a concert or a venue that is not going to be as restricted as the.
Yeah, and I guess I appreciate that, Tracy, but that's not our, I second Connor's motion. And that's what we need to do. And then let's put a provision in there and without qualifications. Then they figure it out.
I mean, if we want to
And that's
clarify
perfectly fine.
that they
I think
follow
it's
the
better.
noise ordinance, we can do that. I just feel like whether we condition it or not, they have to follow the noise ordinance. So
Yeah, we don't need to, it's
just,
a moot
if
point.
that makes
because they have
people
to
feel
follow it
better,
anyway.
let's do it. But,
Yeah.
to me,
Right.
they have
From the
to do it.
applicant standpoint, that's far better. They're happy to have you approve the site plan, the amended site plan as presented, and they will comply with the noise ordinance.
Well, I have a-
Board.
George, how do you feel on that?
Yeah,
Well,
so I was just gonna say, Connor made a motion. The noise
Yeah,
ordinance.
let's
is
vote.
passed.
I have a point of inquiry
Stuart,
for,
go ahead. Sorry.
I'd like to ask Connor, if you approve this, if this goes to a vote and it's approved, then any venue in the Hamlet commercial can do the same thing, and you're going to have 2 or 3, at least, venues with outdoor music without any restriction other than the enforcement ability of the town to come down and measure decibels and bring a proceeding, which I don't know that they've done too much.
Well, I know that they do that. The police come out.
Right, but that's not, to me, it's not an ideal thing. To me, my thought is, why don't we have them do the demonstration and we can run it like a test and see how far the music bleeds or doesn't bleed, up, down, sideways, and so on at different levels, and potentially even bring in our own engineer to monitor it. Because I don't have the technical expertise for this, but I do know how to read emails, and I know what people mean when they say they live, a mile or 2 down the road and they're hearing it, or up the mountain, and it's bothering them. Please let me finish my statement. And I'm not comfortable with just giving a carte blanche approval and just turn it over to the noise ordinance. I think we have more power than that, and I think we can do a more hands-on, intelligent set of standards that would protect the residents of the town against noise intrusion.
So that
when they want to have a
Stuart,
quiet,
as you said many times before, and now we get to vote, and then we
And
decide.
I'm just going to put out my motion was to separate the two. Now, if your
No,
question,
you didn't separate them.
I did. My motion was to say pending the separation of any and all noise related, noise and sound related improvements.
No, John, the issue is simple, that it's the town's job to enforce the ordinance.
Exactly.
It's the town's job. It's not the planning board's job.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Not our job. We
and
can't
just
tell,
to-
and I agree with Connor, we can't tell anybody that they have to obey the law. I mean, that's not our job.
I agree.
As I said in the beginning, we're approving tables, chairs, lights, parking, signage. That's the site plan. It has a stage in it. Okay. That's all we can approve.
Let's vote.
I have another point of order. Well, I don't know what the right phrase is, the rules, but the town law obligates us as a planning board, the general standards section. We have to consider the impact of the proposal on town residents. Now, that doesn't say anything about whether it's legal or illegal under town ordinance. If that were the case, and any applicant could do anything they want so long as it's legal. But that could be without regard to the impact on the town residents. And we know there are many town residents who don't like the level of amplified sound coming from the site and traveling this way and the other way. And to me, until we solve that satisfactorily, I don't want to approve anything that allows them to do that.
Of order.
This to me.
Point of order.
Judy?
We have a proposal in front of it, which was seconded, that has no contingencies or requirements on it. If the board wants there to be contingencies or requirements on it, they should vote down that proposal, or somebody should make a friendly amendment and let Connor agree to it or not. At the moment, the motion in front of us is to approve the site plan with no specifications about sound.
It was actually to approve the site plan pending the removal of all.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. That's the proposal. If that passes, then that's what they have to do. And that, I think, does take account of Stuart's concern, because they have to separate the sound out.
And I mean, if someone wanted to amend it, to be honest, to approve the sound based on the discussion we'd be having, I would be comfortable with that, because I do understand the technology behind it, with the idea that the law has to be enforced and them taking the risk. Yes, I would be comfortable with that, but that's not what I proposed. What I proposed is approving the construction of all non-sound related equipment so that they do have the opportunity to come back to us, either to clarify further, perhaps, given that what this board is used to seeing, some technical drawings showing the the vertical elements and everything we wanted to take a look at. But for now, I'm asking about.
And I'm seconding that if nobody else did.
Okay,
So,
Melissa, could we go ahead and take a vote and get a count?
Yes.
Well, let's clarify what the motion is. So is the motion to approve the pending application, except that we're not approving those aspects of the application dealing with sound amplification?
That's correct.
Yes.
Correct. That's correct.
All right. Is that acceptable to you, Connor, as a statement of the motion?
That was what I originally said.
All right.
That was the original statement. So
right.
I agree.
Okay.
Call the question.
Okay, Melissa, let's take a vote.
Take a vote.
Please read the motion that we're voting on.
Okay. So again, I move to approve the application pending the removal of all sound-related expansions or improvements, and restrict that only to the construction for the restaurant.
And they can come back to us with the sound when they're ready.
That's confusing, because within the restaurant, it's outside, Connor. You gotta,
Well, I mean-
you gotta firm that up.
So, okay, so
Help me out, John.
Well, John had it right. You know, he had it clear when
Make
he
a
said it.
motion, John.
What do you want, Melissa?
I'm good with approving the pending application without the sound aspect, but once they get wordy and start the other stuff, they're not gonna be able to do their project. They're not gonna be able to do the outdoors when you start getting all these other words in here.
Well, I want to do this. Let's try this.
Thank you.
This is an amendment to approve the pending application as it's filed, except for all sound-related elements which are held in abeyance pending further consideration.
Thank you,
Second.
Stuart.
Perfect. Let's go with that.
Is there a second?
So
Yes, I
moved.
seconded it.
Judy.
All in
All in
favor?
favor?
Aye.
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 That's everybody. Stuart, you gotta write that down on a piece of paper for me and email it to me. Thank you. No.
Stuart, thank you. Connor, thank you. John, thank you.
Can we ask a question for clarification? Because the way that you've, sorry, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
The way that you've just worded that resolution does not permit them to construct the stage? Or are you in agreement that they can construct the stage, but that there should be no amplification of music prior to your approval of the demonstration?
That's correct.
So they can construct the stage, but there is
Yeah.
no amplification of music until after they've presented
Satisfied,
the new
satisfied.
technology.
Tracy, it's everything but sound. The application is approved based on nothing within sound.
As Neil
The
said, his
silent
burgers don't make any noise.
Okay.
They could arguably have acoustic sound. Nothing amplified.
Nothing, that's exactly what I'm trying to clarify. Nothing amplified.
So Lex.
You know, I don't want this to be outlawing us to be doing music, period, outside. This has to be amplified. This has to be noise ordinance. This has to be egregiously loud, whatever. I don't like to think this thing is like making us illegal to have music played outside until when? Until we.
We're just talking about the site plan submission. You still can, we're working forward from here.
Yeah, Lex and Neil, you're still with us with sound, but everything else on the site plan, the planning board and I will formulate a resolution for the next meeting and give us a few weeks and we'll get you going and building what you need to build for that area.
All right.
Okay, planning board, sound good?
Sounds good.
Well, a quick question.
Yes, John.
We had a comment come in that your stage is already built. Is that correct?
It's a flatbed trailer. It can be unbuilt. It's not a stage. It's a flatbed trailer.
And the orientation of it is of some concern. I don't know what that orientation is.
We moved it. We moved
moved
the trailer.
It's on the plan. We moved it. It's in a better spot. If there's a better spot, we found it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
All righty.
We can now move on to our 6:55.
Planning board.
Okay.
Brian, I would like to be thanked for my point of order, Brian.
I'm sorry?
I would like to be thanked for my point of order.
I guess if you were listening, I thanked you already, but I'll thank you again if that's what's needed.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also, Judith, please turn down your volume.
I can't.
Okay, everybody. So
I'm just going to say thank you. And I'll get off the meeting unless there's some part. Yeah, you're welcome.
You have two Zoom spots as Kevin.
Yeah, that's my wife's computer. I put my phone on so that it wouldn't glitch out. The phone is trying to connect to the house. So, I mean, the computer is trying to connect to the house. Kristen's part is the one that's had the glitching problem. So anyway, but if any of you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer them. And it sounds like we're going to put a more of a detailed plan together to present, but like I said, if you have further questions, feel free to reach out and
talk with your client. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Planning board, you'll have a resolution for the next meeting.
Melissa and Peter, if I may, so the applicant should understand that this is not official until the resolution is actually issued. And make sure they understand that.
Correct. Okay. We now have a sketch plan review. Samantha Yakorsky, and this is a special use permit 22-0665. And this is a sketch plan review of a special use permit application to construct a dwelling located in the R3 and Scenic Overlay Zoning District at Route 212 in Woodstock. And I believe Judy is getting it up on the screen.
And Hugh is here.
Is this the right part?
That is the right site. That's just the elevation. This one
Well,
does not.
tell me which picture you want.
Yeah, I don't think you got the right slide. This is just showing the driveway. That's just the driveway with the elevation. That's why.
Okay, I'll get the other drawing. I wasn't sure which drawing you wanted. Just a moment.
Hugh, I want to thank you for being patient and hanging in there with your beautiful newborn.
Thank you. We're totally fine. The baby, actually, he's doing great. I can't believe he's hung in there, listening to sound engineering details.
It put him to sleep. So.
Is this what you want then?
What is that? Yeah, this is exactly it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so would the applicant please tell the planning board what it is they are proposing to do?
We are proposing to build a small cabin, 722 square feet, located in the scenic overlay. And there is nothing on the land right now, two existing small sheds. And we're just looking to get your blessings to move forward. And to what you need for us to provide to you to make that happen.
All right, well, the basic issues in the scenic overlay, maybe Melissa told you, but I'll say it again, is the glazing. And there is a specific amount of square foot of glazing allowed per building side, which is 25%. The other concern is colors of the walls, the exterior walls, and of the roof. And the roof itself material is important, that it's non-reflective and that it meets the palette that we have for colors for the roof. And the other issue is outside lighting. All lighting has to be dark sky compliant, and we need actual cut sheets. Those are the sheets, the spec sheets from each light company showing what the light does. So those things we need for the application. And the next thing we're going to need to do is to appoint 2 representatives from the planning board to do a site visit. And for the site visit, it's important that you can stake out or ribbon up the proposed driveway and the proposed house site.
There is already an existing driveway. It was already always there, and we expanded it. We got approval from the state. So that was done the year before in January.
Okay. Without too much here, does your glazing meet the standards, or do you have to do some mitigation?
I have to do the calculations on the 25%.
Yeah.
If you look at the facade, now you're talking about the 25% throughout the whole building, or is it
No,
just
25% for the side, the elevation.
Okay. So are you taking like 25% of all 4 sides?
No, each side, like specifically the side that's facing south, or whichever way you're orientating the building, which would be the side that's facing outwards, has to be under 25% glazing.
But what if you look at the facade of the house, we have like, it's kind of like a cantilevered awning. So it's like, we actually designed it that way. So it makes sure that, it's
right,
not.
Judy has it right there. I see it right there. Yes, yeah. Awnings work for mitigation. It doesn't look to me like you're over 25%. Are you over 25%?
In this.
Which side faces south? This side here, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's over 25%. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's got an overhang.
We have that awning. We have like a 6 feet cantilever, just to create like more of the sharper, what do you call that, aperture. So there's gonna be less window exposure, because I knew that that would be an issue. That's good.
Yeah. All right. They make glazing that's non-reflective. Is this a non-reflective glazing?
We can make that non-reflective. That's not a problem.
You can either get the glazing comes like that from the factory. There's actually films that you can put on to make it non-reflective. If there's shades, if there's screening, that helps. Obviously, the overhang you have helps, but it is something that we have to be very, very careful of, that we're not going to bounce light off of your windows off into the valley.
I totally.
That's our main concern. What kind of roof are you proposing?
Well, it's a flat roof, so the
rubber probably.
Yeah, it's probably rubber. I mean, I'd like to pitch it a little bit to get like some standing seam roof. Obviously, we would do like black. The whole house is black. We're going to use like the Sushigaban, which is the firing the torch, or we're going to use black pine tar for the siding of the house. I want this house to like be camouflaged. We have no desire to make it flamingo pink.
Okay, let me ask, any members of the board have questions for the applicant?
I can't figure out where the house is on this.
The house is proposed. If you look, it says proposed house. There's that little square.
I see it.
I see shed. I see shed.
Yeah, go down a little.
Well.
Go down a little further. Yeah, right. Yep. Move to your left a little bit. Yes, that's it.
Oh, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And this is the part that's facing downhill.
Exactly. And I oriented the house longitudinally, so it wouldn't have such a big exposure to the south. I mean, all the designers and architects are telling me to orient it the other way because I have more solar gain. But I knew that I was in the scenic overlay and I wanted to really reduce the amount of glass that's being exposed.
Right, and on this side, you're not at the 25%.
Yeah, if you look at the facade, I think we're pretty close.
Yeah, but you're within the limits, and if you make it non-reflective, it's going to be fine.
So if it's all like non-reflective, then it's a moot point that it's 21%.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it helps mitigate. In other words, whatever you're over the 25%, we have to mitigate. So that all the overhang, the glazing, I mean, the non-reflective glazing, all helps for mitigation.
But this is that side that's southeasterly facing,
Right.
and there's not a lot of glass there.
That's more like northeast. And the longitude, the short cross section on drawing number 2, that's the exposure.
Right.
And we have 6 feet cantilevers and a 6-foot porch. So we wanted
with
to
a railing, looks like.
We wanted to reduce the aperture of that glass because I just knew that, you know, I don't want to drive down 28 and see somebody's like glass house. I get it.
Even that railing will help do mitigation.
Yep.
All right, so we need 2 volunteers, and we definitely have to do a site visit because it is the scenic overlay. And whoever volunteers to go up, you have to make sure that you stand where the house is proposed and look out over the view and make sure you're not looking in somebody's window. So do we have 2 volunteers for this project? I just did the last one.
I'll
James
volunteer.
got his hand up. Brian, okay. We got James and Brian. We're good.
And you need me to be there?
That's up to those guys.
I don't.
Okay.
If it's staked out, they probably can do without you.
Yeah, I've already staked out. You'll see pink flags and you'll see exactly where it is. Yeah.
I'll send you guys the beginning of next week. I'll send you everything you need.
How high above the ground is the porch when you're standing under it?
Yeah,
It's
like 6 feet, 6 feet tall, 6 feet above the ground, 7 feet above the ground. We wanted to make the house low profile. I didn't want to do like a double height, and I made the building, you know, volume.
Yeah.
Relative.
Do you know what the percentage of slope is there? Just out of curiosity.
I think I would say I did the elevations for the curb cut to the state, and I think I averaged like 10 to 12%.
Okay.
There's no like, you know, no greater than 15% grade, more than 500 feet. That's not even.
That was exactly my question.
Okay.
Very
The
good.
other issue is that when the reps make the site visit, to note what trees are existing in front of the proposed house, and that those can't be cut, other than what you need to put your septic and house in, of course.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this. It's a good question because we had this huge pine tree about maybe 30 feet from our house, and it snapped. And I was surprised that it actually snapped back like uphill. And there's only one pine tree that I'm really concerned about. It's like, what do we do about that?
You can, if it snapped, you cut it down. It's that's not going to.
There's another one that's like a little closer, and it's also a pine tree. And I'm just like, after that ice storm and that wind, I'm like, you know.
Yeah. Pines are not house-friendly items, so try not to get pines over your house. But the point is that we just want to make sure that whatever screening is in front of your house on your property is not all cut down to expose the entire house. So that's
No. Actually, we didn't even touch. Like, I had all these people come up. I was like, you should cut all these trees. I was like, no, I'm gonna wait for you guys to give me the blessing.
Because when we approve your site plan, it will say on it that those trees are to remain. So.
Okay. Well, we have like three birch trees that just don't look that great, and they're right in front of the house. I mean, I would need to cut those down too. They would be roughly like 4 feet away from the house.
Yeah, well, that's not a problem.
So
I mean, if we look at this, that's a heavily wooded lot. This is all tree shadow from deciduous trees.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of these is probably the pine that got broken.
yeah, and actually the way the house is sited, all behind the house, all beautiful red oak trees.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that we push the house away from all the oaks and all the trees that we would have to take down. They're like 8 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches. They're all very young trees.
Yeah.
And then, we're doing only 8 piers into the ground because we don't want to disrupt the whole mycelium.
My power pack.
So that's just the strategy of how we decided to site the house. We really wanted, it took us a long time to figure out what we wanted to do because it's just so beautiful up there. I'm with you. I don't want to take any trees down, but after that ice storm, I'm like, we have to take something down.
Well, we understand that. Our point simply is that we don't want to expose the building to, the entire valley, so.
Yeah,
Sure, you don't either, but that's one of the issues we've had to deal with in the scenic overlay, so.
Yeah, I know this house, like I know that we're in the scenic overlay, but nobody can really see this house. It's just, I feel like we're out in like no man's land. There's like nothing that you can see.
Well, that's good, that's
sure
good.
When you
Well,
come
the site reps will see that when they
Yeah.
go up there. All right, anybody else on the board have any questions for this applicant regarding this application?
No.
Okay, Stuart already did the, excuse me, Melissa?
You all be in touch.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. Stuart already did the draft resolution for T-Mobile. So all we have left is the site visit update that I did on Lions Way, which is off of Lions Way Road is a very small private road. It comes off Hutch Hill Road, but as you go up, Lions Hill Road is kind of steep, but the driveway to the applicant's place is very level. There's the proposed driveway is very level. And this applicant is doing the correct thing, asking the planning board to look at the driveway before they put it in. So that's what they did. They're not applying yet for the house, which we will have to review and do a whole special use permit. So all I can say for now is that the proposed driveway is fine. It's got grading is fine, and it doesn't expose any problems that I can see. So does anybody on the planning board have anything else or?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to prevail upon someone other than me to be.
Hang on a second. Peter, I just need you to make a motion that we're going to waive the public hearing for the driveway for Lions Rentals LLC.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Judy, pause. Okay. Peter made the resolution and I just said it. Planning board. Lions Rental Way, it's a driveway, it's flat. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, your turn.
Okay. I want to prevail on someone other than me to be on this expanded tree committee that Bennett Radcliffe queried people about. I am on, or have been on, 5 committees. 3 of them are still alive. Sorry, 4 of them are still alive. I am not contributing another committee, thank you. But it seems to me that there are at least a couple of people here who could do this. And I want to lean on you. I want to guilt you.
So, Judy, I'm curious, who do you think those people are?
You and John.
Judy,
I was going to say, I'm
can't
already
tell
on
you-
2 committees and I
No,
can't.
Connor's already on committees. James is busy with the Chamber of Commerce. I don't know about Brian and John. I'm just saying that's who I see.
So, Judy, I have to say, I mean, I actually take offense to that. And the reason I do is because it's not up to you to make a determination on what I can do and what I can't do.
I agree.
You have no idea what's going on with my work, my life, or anything else. And so,
okay.
Said.
Well, it's Peter's problem, not mine. but I
Okay.
really think that somebody ought to be on this committee.
Yeah, well,
I cut trees for a living, so.
Thank you, Judy. Anybody's interested, let me know. I'll
If
connect
you
you
need
with
your
them.
trees cut down, just call me. I'm good at that. Okay, well, Judy, we'll have to work on that then. But other than that, if anybody else have any issues, or we can entertain a motion for adjournment.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.